Hello, and thank you so much for listening to the Teacher Business Podcast with me, your favorite English instructor, Ashawn R. Hampton. So, this is episode 104, the fourth episode of my Teacher Business Podcast. For those of you who are just tuning in, you really want to go back and listen to episodes 1 through 3. But if you are just finding me, I've been telling the story of how I came to build my business, Onyx Online Education and Training, and all of the products, books, and online classes that I offer. It's somewhat like VH1's Behind the Music. Well, I'm going behind the business, behind the book, behind the online class, and giving you my personal stories, feelings, observations on my creative process. Also, if you are a teacher and you want to be an entrepreneur, perhaps you want to start your own freelance business in something such as proofreading or copy editing or something writing related, then this podcast will give you inspiration and information, because in the midst of me telling stories about how I built things and my substitute teacher stories and classroom stories, I'm also giving tips on how to build an online business, which could actually apply to any sort of discipline, not just writing or editing businesses. If you are a teacher, especially an English instructor, then this might be a natural progression for you, a side hustle skill that you already practice, that you're familiar with, and that you can make money from. Okay, before I get started, I just want to say that I was browsing through Hulu and I saw that there is a new show called Abbott Elementary or something like that that comes on Channel 7 ABC. And it is about a multiracial, multi-generational school staff and everything that they have to go through in these days and times. When I have told you about my educational experiences in the classroom as a substitute teacher and how grungy they can get, well, this is reflected on that TV show, in a funny way, but also showing you the realities of today's educational system. So there are young teachers and older teachers. And of course, the younger teachers are more optimistic and hopeful that they can make a change and that things will get better. So there's a principal who they don't know how she got her job, but she's not the best principal at all. She is not the best leader. So instead of spending money on things that teachers really needed, like rugs and school supplies, she spent the money on her hair and on a school sign that had her picture on it. And so one younger teacher got really frustrated by that and tried to email the superintendent, but of course the email bounced back to the principal. And so it's pretty funny. If you remember that guy who played on Everybody Hates Chris, he was the kid. He is now an adult. I don't know his name, but he's on that show as the substitute teacher who actually applied for the principal's job. But the principal, as it is revealed, got her job because the superintendent was having an affair and she found out about it. It's sort of funny, but then it's sort of sad. But the young teacher was going so hard to get rugs for her classroom because she said they're like a Prozac for kids. Kids love to lay on rugs. But then they showed this young boy. During his lunchtime, he would always take a nap. This young teacher would allow him to take a nap because he had like 6 other kids in the house. He did not have his own bed. His parents were really disruptive and abusive towards one another. And she said he told her the rug was so soft and softer than anything he had to lay on at home. So that's why she was so upset and distressed about not being able to replace the rugs in her room. And of course, they came up with a funny and resourceful way to get those supplies. So it is funny and heartwarming, but it demonstrates the harsh realities of the educational system. Teachers have to be social workers, mothers, fathers, grandparents. You can't just teach children ABC 1, 2, 3 or whatever worksheet they're working on because they're hungry, because they're dehydrated, because they might be in an abusive home. There are so many things that have to be optimal in order for kids to learn properly. And if everything is out of balance in this kid's life, then he or she is not going to be able to perform well in the classroom. So it's funny, it's serious. I enjoyed watching the pilot, and I hope the show continues. So that is part of teacher business as well. Just talking about things that are going on that are related to teachers and the classroom. So just like the substitute teacher in the show, they might be administrators in waiting, doing that to get ground level experience before going to a job elsewhere. Substitutes could be retired educators. There are a range of people with a range of backgrounds and educational levels that are serving as substitute teachers. But I will tell you about another recent substitute experience. It was actually the worst one, and I've been subbing for 7 years. And I'm going to name names. It was at Stevens Elementary here in Little Rock, Arkansas. The school is in what we call the hood, in an area I personally had never been in before because it's kind of on a scary part of town. I'm just going to be honest. But this neighborhood was actually quiet. The school is big and brilliant, and they have a lot of resources, a lot of digital media resources. There's a community center right next to it. It's just a great looking school. I was there to sub for a media specialist, which is counted as a secretarial job, not a teacher job. When I got there, the lady in the office warmly greeted me and took me to the media center, which was locked, where I was supposed to help the librarian. Well, as it turns out, this was a Friday. She didn't have any classes until 10 o'clock. So, of course, she wasn't going to show up until a few minutes before 10 o'clock. So I'm sitting there, and another lady comes in and says, well, listen, we need help in the classroom. A teacher is out, so we need you to fill in for this class. Sometimes secretaries have to go and fill in for teachers when we cannot get a substitute for that class. Now, this woman was a little less gracious, and I really didn't like how she was talking to me that early in the morning. I really did not. So I said, wait, I usually don't take teacher jobs, but you want me to come to this classroom? She's like, because she was an older Black lady. What level of class is this, 4th grade? I said, I didn't come here to sub for a 4th grade class, but you want me to substitute for a 4th grade class. Yes. Really, I was about to curse and just turn around and go home. But then I saw the teacher next door was actually having to watch these students in her own class and take care of her own class. That's the only reason why I stayed. When I got inside this classroom, there was crap all over the desk. It's like this teacher was a hoarder. It was a very large classroom. So the area where the students were was fairly clean and organized. But her desk, her countertops, bookcases, storage cabinets looked like a hoarder. I could not find anything on that desk. So this older woman, who revealed herself to be the assistant principal, was trying to help me find things. I'm like, I don't see any plans. How am I supposed to find it? Well, you just look and let me know. I really was about to curse this woman, but I was raised to respect my elders, and she left the room. The reason why schools can't get substitutes is this level of disrespect. I'm here to help you out. Why are you talking crazy to me? Why are you being so flip? Like you really don't have time to explain to me what's happening here. Well, let me go and see if I have some worksheets. I might have some worksheets that I can run off. So this teacher she left plans that the students had already done previously in the week. This was Friday. So every worksheet she left, they had already done. So that's why the assistant principal went to try to find some extra work for them to do and for me to give them. So I'm at this desk that's piled high with papers and other crap because the teacher seems to have been a hoarder. I already at 7 a.m, this was about 7:45 now, had to deal with this disrespectful assistant principal to the point where I was about to curse and leave, but I did not. Because there was another teacher next door who had these 20 kids and her own 20 or so kids. So it was not what I preferred. Of course, they acted like fourth graders, which is why I do not substitute for fifth grade classes or middle school because they are horrible. At some points, I was able to walk them through some exercises, and they were all very bright kids, a majority African American class. And here's another thing about education here in Arkansas. And I'm just going to be very honest. Remember, this is the home of Central High School, where was it Orville Faubus, the governor, literally sent out the National Guard to Central High to keep Negro children from going to high school. He fought very hard against integration, did not want Black and white children to integrate in schools. And so it's not a whole lot better here in 2021. What happened was white flight. They moved to areas further and further away from the city, to the outskirts of the city and to suburban areas, and then all the way out to the country. Had their own schools, their own private schools. That's how they got around integration. Currently, they are rezoning things. They are shifting schools around. They are giving schools new names. Charter schools have been very big here because instead of private schools, you can just open charter schools with the kind of population and demographic you want them to have, right? So they've been finding ways against integration and having to send their children to multiracial schools. And around here, it's majority Black and Hispanic. And in fact, the largest charter school system here is run by Turkish people. I substituted there once. A kid came up to me, Black kid, do you understand this? There was a worksheet in Turkish hieroglyphics. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but there were no letters the way that we recognize letters. I don't know how Black kids in Arkansas will benefit from learning Turkish, but that's what they're doing in that charter school. So I'm at Stevens Elementary, where not only was the assistant principal disrespectful to me, I got a call from a disrespectful secretary because my thing was, well, since you have shifted me to a teacher job, then I need to get the higher pay rate and not just the secretarial pay rate. This woman talked so tough on the phone to the point where I went into the office. I just flung the door open and just started yelling, not at the top of my lungs, but it was pretty loud. Who was I just talking to on the phone? Because this ridiculous woman had the nerve to tell me, I tried to call you earlier, but you didn't pick up the phone. I said the kids were in music. I had to take them to music. That's probably where I was. Well, I was trying to call you earlier to tell you that you need and it went on for like a few seconds before I just said, here I come. Okay. Because evidently I was not going to get anywhere with this woman on the phone. So I had to go to her in person. So I flung the door open. Who was I just talking to on the phone? Two ladies standing there. Nobody said anything. Okay, you were just talking real tough to me on the phone. Now you're not going to say anything. I literally for 10 seconds. Do you know how long 10 seconds is? Time it. I'm standing there for about 10 seconds before she finally said, it was me. Now you're so meek now. But I'm still in my assertive voice because I did not appreciate how you were talking to me. You were being insulting. And so now I'm in your face and you're all meek and demure. I cannot believe the unprofessionalism of the lady in the office and the assistant principal. But I guess she acted like that because the assistant principal acted like that, talked like that to people who are professionals. They had no idea of my background. And I called my sister on a break and threatened to tell the people, the higher ups that I know in the educational system here, and she knows some higher ups too. But I'm saying it on my podcast because somebody will hear it. Stevens Elementary was like the worst when it came to lack of cooperation and disrespect when it came to their leadership. That's why you can't keep substitute teachers. People with no educational background would not have been able to handle that. Not at all. One lady told me that they've had subs to just leave at about 11 o'clock. When the kids go to lunch, the subs just leave and don't come back. And I can see why. That was horrible. I was at another school where the substitute came 2 hours late. Older Black lady. She had a bonnet on her head and wanted everybody to call her Dr. such and such because she had just finished her doctorate, probably through some online program. But when I tell you the lack of professionalism and you want me to call you doctor, it's crazy. I mean, substitute teaching is no joke. And that's why if you don't have a teaching background, you are not going to last very long. Most of the subs I see are retirees, like older people or retired educators. Nobody is going to put up with that level of disrespect for very long or very often. So teachers are quitting because it's dangerous. Remember the last episode when I told you about my lockdown experience and how horrible the kids were? And now you have the administrators who are disrespectful and who are not helpful to substitutes that they are relying on to help them out since they are short on teachers. It was crazy. So now back to my business, Onyx Online Education and Training. My website, arhampton.com. I mentioned it as my portal in the last episode. If you want to find out about me and all of my work, just go to arhampton.com. That website actually started as my digital portfolio, my online resume, so that when I was applying for jobs, I just sent people to arhampton.com to see work samples of my web design, of the articles that I've written, of the things that I've edited, the types of jobs I was applying for. I had my experience and work samples laid out on this website. In the last year, it has turned into more of my business website. So now when you go, you see Onyx Online Education in a big header, online courses for academic and professional success. And I found this really cool picture that goes well with the aesthetic and the colors of the website. So I'm enjoying this big header photo at arhampton.com. Now it links you to Onyx Ed, PD hours for teachers, books, classes, merch, blog, more. Those are all of the short words and phrases that are going across the top navigation menu of my website. And it took me a minute to figure out what the focus was for this site, since I revamped it to not only be an online resume for me, but also a calling card for my business. I had to refocus and reflect that in the website, what I want people to click on, what I want people to see when they come to this site. So as you scroll down, the first thing you'll see is a large photo, and it says affordable online classes. So I have some verbiage there telling you about my online classes. No waiting. Classes and all course materials are available now 24/7. So I came up with short, punchy phrases that would make people interested in clicking and looking at the course offerings. In a nutshell, these are the benefits to you if you take my classes. And so that's the first thing after the nice header photo that you see. Scroll down further, it says our books. Upgrade your writing skills. And there are some short bullet points about the advantages of purchasing my books. And then there is a link to the page where you can click and find all of my books. So I wanted to make the navigation very easy. I wanted to make it colorful, but still professional and a little bit subdued, but with a dash of color so that it's really soothing to look at. And hopefully you'll stick around and keep clicking different links to see all of the different things that I have to offer. After that, the header says start proofreading. And I have an image of my proofreading books, a couple of my proofreading books, and the landing page for the course inside of these digital media devices, because that's really popular with people. Again, short bulleted phrases on what I offer and links that you can click very easily to get to that information. After start proofreading, it says professional development. K through 12 teachers online professional development, because there are 5 courses that the state of Arkansas have certified to give teachers 6 professional development hours. So instead of sitting in some seminar you don't want to sit in at a very low cost, you can take my online courses and get 6 professional development hours. And I made them very cost effective so that people could take all 5 of my classes and not feel like they have broken the bank. After that, our merch shop. So there's an image of the merchandise that I designed, the t-shirts. One says awesome English teacher with an apple on it, a backpack that says be well. There's another one that says write well. So I have merchandise that I want you to go purchase. And right now you can get a discount on it. You know, there are a lot of end of the year holiday discounts going on. So if you go to the website, arhampton.com, and click the button for merchandise, you can catch a sale. Then at the very bottom of the page, it says about Onyx Online Education. So instead of having people click another page to go to find out in a nutshell what my business is about, I have a brief paragraph at the bottom of the website. Now, I used to have a form, a contact form at the very bottom of the website, but I had to remove it. You know why? Because people were spamming me. I was getting big time spam and weird emails from weird people constantly. So I literally had to remove all of the contact forms from my website. Instead, I have my email address. I used to have my phone number, but then I was getting weird phone calls from people. So I stopped posting my phone number, but you can, there's a web address and an email address. Basically, you will physically have to email me in order to get in contact with me. It can't be a bot or some other AI way that people are using to spam you these days. There has to be a live person actually emailing me in order to get in touch with me. So it is a shame that I had to remove my contact forms and my phone number, but I did in order to stop the spam and the weirdness. Also, at the bottom of the page, there's my logo and social media icons to my LinkedIn, my Amazon author page, my blog page, the icon for YouTube, and for Instagram. So you can find my social media. You just have to go all the way to the bottom of the page where it says contact, and there you will find my information. So just like my easyedits.net website, this website, arhampton.com, has gone through so many different design changes, but I am proud of this as well. It represents hours and hours of work, hard work, imagination, creativity, for me to figure out the best way to present myself and to present my business. And so I am pleased with what arhampton.com looks like now. And it's not like I was embarrassed by it before, but it's cleaner and it gets to the heart of what I want people to see about me and how I want you to support me. So the navigation is very easy to follow, very clickable. When you click PD hours, there's a sub menu that says ADE approvals. When you click books, There's a sub-menu that says all books, bulk orders, and MCW books. Bulk orders are for people, organizations who want to order more than 30 copies. You do get a discount from the publisher for that, from lulu.com. MCW books is something else for church ladies, basically. When you hover over classes, the sub-menu says all classes, group classes, and affiliates. I do in 2022, especially want to start onboarding businesses, organizations, and corporations to take my classes. So not just individual users and learners, but I do want corporate business as well. Where it says merch, you just click that. There's no sub-menu. It takes you right to my merchandise page, which, there's some really cool merchandise. The journals, the backpacks, the t-shirts, just really cool looking. I'm really proud of how that came out. Blog, you click that, it goes right to my blog. And there's a lot of good information on my blog, a lot of articles that I've written about not just education, but about building your business and about writing well. So it's worth browsing and taking a look at the information that I provide on my blog. And for teachers, I link to free Teachers Pay Teacher resources. So these are teachers who have made certain materials free. So if you are a TPT user, you can go to my blog and click on those links to see if those free materials are still available. When you click more at the top of my page, at the navigation menu, you see a sub-menu with the words teachers, students, my YouTube, proofreading, Lulu classes, web design, articles, social badges, about me, easy edits. So design-wise, I had to figure out a way to lay out a lot of information in a way that's appealing visually and that's easy for people to navigate without getting overwhelmed. So again, you can go to arhampton.com to see all of the things that I have just mentioned. So in this podcast, we talked about the TV show that's teacher related that I watched on ABC. I gave you the worst school I have substituted at, Stevens Elementary in Arkansas. I hope somebody hears it because their leadership, that assistant principal, the people in the office, they need to get a lot better about how they treat substitutes and how they treat everybody, I guess. I don't know if they talk to everybody crazy like that, but I didn't appreciate it. Then business-wise, Onyx Online Education and Training, we talked about the website, arhampton.com, and how it started out as just my online digital portfolio, but now it has grown to include my online business offerings, the products that I offer, the online classes, the books, the professional development classes, the merchandise in particular. So I really am not accepting editing clients, but I've had people now and then ask me about that. And in 2022, I might get back to that. We'll see, because I am always side hustling. Like everybody else, I want multiple streams of income. I am looking for my first million at this particular point. Since everybody else is making $1 million off their online classes, why not me? That is where I am now when it comes to my business. So in wrapping up this podcast, I want to mention my grammar books. In the last episode, 103, I talked about how I developed my proofreading books. And I mistakenly said that the Proofreading Power book was my first book, writing book that I launched, and that's not true. It was a grammar book that I titled Practical Grammar Essentials. How boring does that sound? Why did I do that? Well, I had developed the grammar class and I wanted to give those students extra practice. And sometimes there are a lot of students who learn better through printed material. There are some who learn well visually through videos and audio, but there are some who really just need to read the book. So for those students, I wanted to provide printed materials, a printed book where you could go through pretty much everything that I taught in the grammar class, but then I added some more things. Here's the thing, because, I had a smart idea. There are things that I mention in my books that I do not mention in my online classes and vice versa. There are things that I mention in my online classes that I do not put in my books. Why? Because you need a reason to buy both. There's something about the book and the class that is unique enough for you to benefit from and not feel like you wasted money. You will never waste money on the materials that you purchase from me. So it took me about a year to write Practical Grammar Essentials. I mean, all of the nuts and bolts down to every period, every number, every bullet point, every explanation. It took a lot for me to write that book, my very first grammar book. But then I decided Practical Grammar Essentials sounds so clinical and technical. Who would want to buy that? And it was a 7x10 book that I uploaded to Amazon. But I decided to change it. And it became an 8x10 book that I published through Lulu. I changed the cover. I changed the name to the Good Grammar Adult Workbook, something like that. And it was blue because all of the grammar books that people were buying were blue with a big red apple on it. It looked really cute, because my thing was there are a lot of people who are no longer in high school or maybe they're studying for their GED. They are non-traditional students who are considered adults who still need information about grammar. A lot of the books about grammar are for kids. And so I wanted to stand out as one who is writing materials for adults and for professionals in the workplace and adult learners at some educational institution. You could be at a junior college or again in a GED class. Adult learners is who I wanted to target. So I revamped the cover again for a third time. Now the book is called Adult Learner Grammar Essentials. So when you go to my website, you click books, you can see Adult Learner Grammar Essentials, and there's this professional young woman typing on a computer on the front of the book. That's what I turned the cover into. Urban Grammar Quick Fixes, another grammar book, what you should say and why. This is a really interesting book that people really, really need to buy. I did 2 versions. Again, I was testing Amazon and Lulu to see which is better. I like the quality of Lulu books a lot better than Amazon books. Amazon, the pages came out flimsy. The colors were not as vibrant. On Lulu, it is a bookstore quality book. The binding, the covers are thick and sturdy. The pages are also thick and sturdy. And so I liked the quality of the book a lot more through Lulu. And so I push for you to buy through lulu.com. But this took me some years to write as well because I was still teaching while I was writing these grammar books, still teaching full-time or as an adjunct, doing something full-time. But I wrote it because so many people were saying so many things wrong. But I was working one of my survival jobs that I mentioned in episode 1. And this girl and boy were having a conversation. And the boy said, I spent all my money. They say spent is a word. Like I spent all my money at the store. And I usually do not get into those sorts of conversations, but I was stunned because I'm like, spent is not a word. Where'd you get that? The Urban Dictionary is where they got it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So people were saying really colloquial things in professional workspaces. You can't go to an interview saying, I'm fintu, and all kinds of other wrong things that people have been saying. So it's a book, a short book, but it's really neat. I have stories behind all of the wrong things that I've heard people say. Then I give you the corrections and why you should say the corrected thing. It's really a fun book. I did a version in black and white. So if you see Urban Grammar BW, that means black and white. And there's another version in color. The color version I really like, but it is more expensive. So it's a fun book it's basically idioms like cultural things that you hear on television, that you might hear in casual speech. And so if you are trying to learn the English language, if English is not your first language, and you hear some of these things, then you might get a little confused by them. So that's why I wrote urban grammar, so that you can understand these idiomatic and casual phrases, to understand them and then to avoid them, especially in academic and professional settings. So then from adult grammar, I got the inspired idea to create the student grammar book. So that's where student success grammar skills came from. Great for homeschool. I put that right on the cover because it is true. Now, there are different areas of grammar that appear in this book than appear in the adult grammar book. The explanations in the student book are a lot more succinct, a lot simpler, more concise, and to the point. So even if you are an adult, you might still want to get the student success grammar skills book, because I try to focus on things that they need to know in K through 12 education classrooms. These are the areas that appear in the standards for grade levels. So curriculum standards, state curriculum standards, these are the things about grammar they want students to know. So these are the things that I put in this particular book. So I also wrote Grammar Essentials for Proofreading, Copy Editing, and Business Writing to be a companion to my proofreading book. Again, in order to proofread well, you need to know grammar really well, but you also need to know business grammar because a lot of proofreading and copy editing happens in workplaces, right? And in professional spaces. So Grammar Essentials is a companion to proofreading power, skills, and drills. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 grammar books that you can find at arhampton.com/books, or just go to the website and click books at the very top menu, along with the proofreading books that I mentioned in the last episode. So over the past 10 years, I've been really busy. Have I had a social life? No. Do I have any friends now? No. Do I have anybody to spend the holidays with other than my immediate family? No. Have I sacrificed a lot of money? Yes. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of intellectual energy. I mean, it has been a sacrifice over the past 10 years to create from scratch all of these products that you find on my website, all of the books, the designs for the merchandise. All of that took a lot of time, a lot of creativity, a lot of imagination. Am I dehydrated a lot? Yes, I am. I have been using my brain a whole lot over the past 10 years, and so I'm always drinking water, trying to stay hydrated. So thank you for listening to this episode, the 4th installment of the Teacher Business Podcast by me, your favorite English instructor, Professor Hampton. Don't forget to go to www.arhampton.com and look at everything I mentioned in this episode. Be sure to subscribe if you are listening to the audio on my YouTube page, and head to the website and tell other people about it. Basically, share my work so that we can enter 2022 with a bang, with an increase in sales, an increase in income, an increase in influence, an increase of my materials getting out to the people who need them. Again, thank you very much for listening. Happy building. Until the next episode.